Today is March the 12th, 2023. And today we're here with John Ingerson, who's running for Amarillo City Council, Place 4. John, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Glad to be here.
Let's tell the voters why you're running for Amarillo City Council.
Well, I would say this time around, Dan and I am really excited about the opportunity that I see to maybe take our city in a little different direction than we've been going. As I told you a little bit ago, this is the third time I have ran, and I just really believe that Amarillo is ready for something different this go round, and I see that opportunity, and I believe I have the skill set that would match up to, as I told you, just coming off of serving 6 years on the Parks Board. I was the last 2 years of that time. I was the chairman of that board. Felt like we accomplished a lot, and I'd like to take that skill set and leadership that I acquired and use that on the city council.
So it gave you the bug.
I've kind of always had that bug, but I got in there and really got to see what it looks like from the inside, and it's pretty neat. I just like I said, we had a lot of challenges, kind of like our city does, and we worked through them as a group. I thought we used some pretty good common sense tactics in our decision making, but the neatest thing about it for me was I felt like we made a difference, and that's what I'd like to do for our city.
So what do you see as what is the role of the city council?
Well, there's many levels of that I see, obviously, but for me, I think where I want to really look into the nuts and bolts of what does the budget look like? What are the needs of our city? How do we fund those needs the best? But for me, I see it as service. That council, any board, any council, in my opinion, should serve first. And I kind of think that's the piece that's missing that excites me a little bit is I kind of believe we've been serving a select few as opposed to the city overall. And I think if we bring the citizens along, we'll see some pretty neat things happen. Again, we have some challenges, but I don't think we have anything that we can't overcome together.
So what do you think the main 3 or 4 main challenges that the city council faces?
Well, I would say for me, I've met with the firemen, the policemen. Public safety is got to be right up there at the top. I'm very concerned about the crime numbers that I see. We've got to figure out, because to me that's such a quality of life issue. We've got to do a better job there, and so I look forward to trying to work with the police chief and the department and just see how we can improve that. Met with some pretty awesome firemen, and they have some concerns about coverage, and some of their pay is maybe a little bit off from what other cities are doing. We're growing, obviously, and they shared some issues about response times that they're getting a little concerned with that. So I'd like to see what we can do to make that a little bit better. Probably right close behind public safety would be our streets. For me, I really am trying to figure out what's taken place. I've lived in Amarillo for 37 years now, and I can't really remember a time that our streets were as bad as they are today. And I'd like to try to understand why that is and see what we can do to fix that. I think for me, though, Dan, just communicating with the citizens and making them feel like they actually are part of what's going on. I don't want to throw too many cliches or whatever at you, but I just believe City Hall belongs to everybody. And if the city elects me to serve at Place 4, they will know that they have a seat at the table.
So what made you choose Place 4?
To be honest with you, I was trying to follow God's lead. I'm a man of faith, and I try to do what I'm directed to do in life. As you know, we elect our council members at large, so it's really just a number, a designation. And I just believe that Place 4 was what I was supposed to run for. To me, it's exciting because it really doesn't matter what place you pick. You get to serve the whole city if you're elected. So just trying to be obedient.
Well, a lot of people think that that's not the best system, that they think we should go to single-member districts. What's your thoughts on that?
Dan, I have, when I ran in 2015, I really dug into this because this is, in 2011, we actually voted on single-member districts. It was voted down. But I have listened a lot, talked to a lot of people, and, it seems like our city's about 50-50 on this issue. I really see good and bad in both systems. In 2015, when I ran, one of the things I ran on was I really felt like our city had grown enough to maybe consider increasing our council by 2 additional members so that we would have 6 members and a mayor. And I thought that would be a great time to have some conversations about doing maybe a hybrid system of the two. I understand why people want single-member districts. Sadly, when you talk to people that really are passionate about that, usually they're feeling very unrepresented, and that's really what it boils down to.
Right.
For me, the real pain of that is you're giving up the opportunity to have 4 people represent you for the hopes that one will. And those aren't good odds to me, but I understand why they're saying it, because I'm kind of wonder sometimes if I'm being represented. So I like I said, I'd kind of like to see what the city thinks about that. This isn't my city, this is our city, and I think the citizens should get to decide. But, at large, the challenge I see with that is one group can kind of control all 5 spots, which I don't think is really good government either. But, sometimes the backroom dealing and some of the things that happen with single-member districts aren't that exciting to me either. So, like I said, I think there are several other cities trying the hybrid system, and I'd like to have that conversation. I'd like to give the citizens an opportunity to weigh in on that.
So how would a hybrid system work?
Well, there's several different ideas. The one that I think would be kind of probably the most practical for us is to try to divide the city into 4 single-member districts. Obviously, you have to figure out where those boundaries are and what legally you can do, with the election. I think if we did that and then had 2 at-large districts or at-large seats, and then the mayor, of course, is always going to be at-large. Generally speaking, you're going to have 3 people that represent you, maybe 4 at all times. So even if you were a single-member fan and you didn't feel like the one that was in your district was representing you well, you still have another place to go. So I like the idea that single-member districts gives our citizens buy-in. I think it makes them feel like they have more of a say. Unfortunately, it's come to that. I mean, I just believe that people are ready for a change, and that might be a good way to start.
Well, I know they allowed the council to go to 24 meetings a year instead of every week. But that doesn't mean they couldn't meet more often.
That we used to meet every week. The first
Right.
couple of times I ran, meetings were every Tuesday. A lot of people talk about the meeting time. 1 o'clock is a challenge, but I actually started doing this when we were meeting at 5 o'clock, and nobody attended at 5 o'clock either. Right. So I don't know what the right time is. One things I've told a lot of people is I get it. People are kind of mad. They're kind of upset. They just don't feel like they're part of the equation. And my goal has been to try to kind of aim them at the right things to be mad at. And I don't know what the best meeting time is because neither one of them are very well attended. I know that we went to 1 o'clock so that staff could be a bigger part of the meetings as opposed to 5 after hours. Because staff is heavily involved in what takes place at council meetings. So, I do know that the voting, the way we elect our officials would be a charter issue. So it would have to be presented to the voters, and rightfully so.
Well, I would think that if you wanted to have public there, you could have once a month or once every other week, you could have a meeting where at a different time, 7 o'clock in the evening or something, at a high school auditorium or something, and invite the public. There's things that could be done.
Sure. Deborah McCart, when she was mayor, actually took it on the road, so to speak. She held a lot of meetings all over town. I've kind of had some conversations about, why we don't do that. And I think the logistics of that got to be a little bit of a challenge. I don't know that to be a fact, but I know that's what some of the concerns were. It's hard to hold a meeting outside of City Hall when you have to do all the recording and all the things that are required to hold a meeting. So, I certainly would like to find a way to make the citizens feel like they're comfortable and wanted at City Hall. I tell people a lot, I kind of ask them some hard questions sometimes, and that's not always received the way I would like it to be received. It's pretty intimidating to come down there and talk to the city council, and so I'd like to be a little more user-friendly anyways and figure out how we can make that whole situation a lot more inviting.
Yeah. Well, I think another complaint I hear is that the culture at the city isn't what it used to be. How do you change that?
Dan, for me, we talk about this a lot. For me, it's we lead by example. How do we treat people? I have a feeling that if the council was a little more understanding about maybe people that they disagree with or that are in disagreement. Again, it all goes back to service. If I've been, in campaign mode, but one of the things I've been saying, and I it's the way I feel. We're Texans. We don't like to be ruled,
right?
And that's the feeling. Especially with the Civic Center and City Hall, we're being ruled, and that's not the job. The job is to serve. And so I think if we just go back to the basics and serve people, make them feel very welcome and part of the process, I think even people can agree that disagreement sometimes is a good thing, as long as you do it respectfully and do it well. I tell people all the time, my wife and I love her to death, but we don't agree on everything. And so just understanding that we're dealing with people that I told, who did I tell the other day? Tom Sherlin and I were talking, and I told him, I said, wouldn't it be awesome if we, in City Hall, we had some pictures around of people that live in Amarillo that maybe are working 2 jobs, they're single mothers or single fathers or whatever that situation might be. And before we vote to spend a whole bunch of money, we actually look at those pictures and we understand where that money comes from. If we could understand how hard many people work to pay their taxes, I think it may make us behave a little bit differently.
And maybe pick up the phone and call them and ask them.
Well, on that, what we did on parks, it was one of the best things I think we ever did, Dan, is we had, like I said, we had some big problems. We had some big challenges. And you probably remember the the big stir. We made quite a stir with putting red X's all over everything in our parks. But we did that because we were in trouble. We weren't able to take care of what we had. We were told we were going to have to start closing some things. And what that did is it brought the community back to, hey, what does matter to you guys? It was right in the middle of COVID. Really about the only thing we could do was go outside and walk in a park or whatever. So, but we held some community engagement meetings. I remember one that was really awesome. We thought, if you can get 100 people together in Amarillo for a meeting at city government, that's pretty big. And it was at the Civic Center. And after 300 people, we stopped counting because we were busy scrambling for more chairs. And for 2 hours, I was really excited because the citizens of this city told our council, hey, you got to take care of our parks. You have got to, our kids use those parks, the athletic programs, the youth sports programs are very important to parents, and rightfully so. And, the walking trails, the fishing, all the things that we do. And the council responded. They have helped increase funding a little bit for parks, or actually quite a bit. And I think the citizens are going to see the fruit from those meetings this spring when the weather breaks and we can start pouring new sidewalks and put in some new swing sets and some stuff that just has not been taken care of for a long time. I think they're going to be a little more proud of and I think they'll have some ownership. They'll know, hey, I helped make that happen. That's the stuff that kind of gets me excited.
Sure. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's about community.
Absolutely. 100%.
And people.
Yep.
Yep. Well, that's great. So you want to give us a little voters some info on your background
okay,
so they know
who I am maybe, and sure
who you are, and
sure
how you've developed the skills to serve in this position.
Okay. Well, just a little bit of background. Like I said, I came to Amarillo in 1986, came here for a job. Didn't know a soul in Amarillo, but started going to the First Baptist Church. Met my wife there, and we've been married for 35 years. She's a registered nurse at Harrington Cancer Center. She's worked for BSA for 36 years, which doesn't happen very often anymore, but that's pretty neat. We have 2 kids. We raised 2 kids. Our son works at Pantex. Aren't we all proud that we have Pantex out east of here? And our daughter is she's actually a board-certified pediatrician now. That happened in December, and she's doing a neonatology fellowship in San Antonio. Lubbock is trying to lure her. That's where she did her residency, and they're trying to lure her back. But I keep telling her, do not underestimate the value of free babysitting. So I'd love to have them come back to Amarillo, but they want to be in a smaller city. But I've been in sales and management my whole life. I was assistant manager at a grocery store at the age of 19. And all I've ever known is just work and earn, don't expect anything to be handed to you. Get out there and make it happen. And, like I said, my faith is incredibly important to me. We attend Trinity Fellowship Church now, and we're involved in ministry at our North Campus, which is out in River Road. And we really love being out there, a little smaller setting, and just really get to know people well. But like I said, in 2011, when I ran the first time, we had hired Wallace Bajali. I'm sure you remember that. And I did some research, and Wallace Bajali was under investigation by the SEC the day we hired him, and just about every city they were working for was suing him. And I started asking questions, why are we doing this? What are we doing? And started attending city council meetings and would speak at some. That was back when we were actually allowed to speak to our council, which is one thing I would really like to go back to. But you could speak on whatever you chose to speak on. And so, tried to be part of the equation, just try to figure out, why we were doing some of the things we were doing, what our motivations were. And so I just, at that time, they said, hey, if you don't get elected, we'd love to have you serve on some boards, and we always have those needs. And so I thought, hey, that's a great idea. So I signed up for the Parks Board, and like I said, one of the most awesome 6 years of my life. Got to really get in there and be part of budgeting and some capital projects. I got to, as the chairman, I got to kind of, obviously with staff leading the way, we got to oversee the new water park after we were forced to close the old Thompson Park pool just because it had given up the ghost after many years. But and then we did the Warford Center. We converted the North YMCA to the only city-owned and city-run indoor recreation center. We have the indoor pool there and do a lot of swim lessons, a lot of neat things there. So, and the other thing I thought was really, really interesting that I got to be part of is we did a new master plan this last time. I think it was brought in 2021 or maybe 2022. I can't remember. It was right around the first of the year. But we have totally updated the Parks Master Plan, and that took several years of work. And so I feel like I gained the knowledge and the ability to kind of understand how city government runs a little bit, or at least how it should run. You know, we tried to bring what we did. We tried to make the people a big part of it. You know, when we were trying to decide on the water park, for example, we had two or three meetings strictly for that neighborhood and asked them. We brought some ideas and said, hey, what do you guys think? What would you like the water park to look like? And it was good. We had some good conversation. I think we got some buy-in on the fact that we were just going to tell them what we were going to do, but we were going to obviously use that money as wisely as we could. But we did a lot of research, and we let them kind of lead a little bit on what they'd like for that area. And I'm pretty proud of that. I kind of hate that we tend to always have to issue COs for stuff like that, but it was a big need at the time because we did not want to close Thompson Park Pool. We had to. It was basically it was condemned just because it was in such bad shape. So I still attend council meetings and still try to be engaged in the process a little bit. But I think, a big issue that I see this time, Dan, is I think we're going to get a kind of a new look. I mean, we know for a fact that all four council places, 1, 2, 3, and 4, will be somebody new. We know that the mayor will not be an incumbent mayor. It may possibly be someone that served on the council, but I just believe that it's really hard to just expect 4 or 5 new people to jump in there day one and know what in the world's going on. And so I think I have a little bit of an advantage there because I've been there and done that. Just the budgeting process alone is a huge undertaking. And so I just think that maybe that skill set would line up pretty nice with this unique challenge we have with looks like a whole new slate.
Well, what encourages me is that we have so many people that have stepped up to run.
Yes, sir.
That's very encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get people out to vote.
That's a big one. We've not been successful with that as much as I'd like.
Well, I think people are realizing that it's about your local community. The national doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The large scheme of things. It's your local community, your city council, your school boards, your AC board, your county commissioners. Those elected officials, to me, are 1,000 times more important than your federal offices because everything that they do affects your daily life. Mm-hmm. That's where your taxes are paid.
Yes, sir.
It's your property taxes, your sales tax, the fees that you pay. It's all determined right here.
Mm-hmm. Well, and really, when you think about it, it's the group that you should have the most access to.
That's right.
I mean,
and that's the way our system's designed.
Absolutely.
The problem is, I think the media has ignored it. They focus on the national because there is really not much local media anymore. and that group, I think it's controlled by a small group, so they don't want to report on things. So we need to come up with a solution and how to communicate with the voters.
Yeah.
I'm working on that. By the time they see this interview, they will know about it, but I think it's going to be good for the community.
Well, I think it's great for the community. You know, prior election cycles that I've been involved in, Dan, we get 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to, I mean, I'm not knocking that. I mean, it's part of the process, but
That's just the way it was always done.
Yeah, it's just the way we've always done it, and it's really hard to get to know anybody in 2 or 3 minutes. So I appreciate, you know, what you're doing, what Alex Fairley did for us as people that are running for office. We had some extensive interviews that he's going to post fairly soon, and I really appreciated that. Asked us some tough questions, which is good as well. You know, it's not an easy job. I'm certainly not taking it lightly, but let me tell you a quick story though that I'm really excited about. We talked about the low voting numbers. I live not too far from a gentleman and lives in our neighborhood. A pretty good friend of mine. Knew him before I even lived in that neighborhood. But I was out knocking doors the other day doing, you know, what I think we should be doing. And we just sat on the porch for a little bit and talked. And he said, you know what, John? He said, and I'm kind of ashamed to admit it a little bit, but I have not voted in local elections in years. I said, really, Gary? He said, yeah. He said, I felt like I was wasting my time. You know, the same old year after year. And he said, but you know what? This year's different because of guys like you, guys like Cole, people like Don Tips and Tom. And, you know, and Place One has some absolutely awesome people running.
Yeah.
I am really excited about. I'm getting to know them. I didn't know any of them, and I think there's 6 total. But awesome people running for Place One.
Yeah.
Just really exciting, and young people running, which is really exciting. But you know, like I said, he said, you know, this year I'm going to vote, and I hope that's a lot of people.
I think it's going to be. I'm going to do everything I can to get the message out and remind them, inform them.
Like I said, it's their city. It's not the council city.
That's
it's
right.
not one group city.
I think people are starting to realize that by not participating, they're voting.
That's true.
And they're voting
sir.
for the wrong people. So you have to be informed, and you have to make the best decision you can based on the information you have, and choose the candidate that you think best represents your values and your interests.
Right.
But you have to vote, and you have to make a decision and participate. That's what our Republican system of government is all about. We live in a representative republic. We don't live in a democracy.
That's exactly
democracy
right.
is mob ruled. No rights of a minority. So
yeah,
democracy is a very, very, very bad thing. But republic, that means we elect people to represent our interest. So we don't have to go down every week ourselves, and then it's a majority, and it's just whoever shows up that day.
Yeah.
And that's not a very good system.
My mom served on a very small village council, so that maybe piqued my interest several years ago, and tried to, what I call, fight the good fight. And I found out one thing that was really hard to take is I was visiting with her one day, and something came up about my dad. I love my dad to death, and he's been gone for 6 years now. But I found out he had not been voting in any elections, and I was like, wow. My dad was Navy. I was born on a Navy base. My grandfather was killed in World War II in the Sea of Japan. And so I was like, Dad, your own father gave his life for this right, this privilege. It's an honor and a privilege to get to vote and to be part of it's what other part of our country do we really get to hands-on participate in that's got more value than voting. And so when he gave me that same story that I hear so much in Amarillo is it really doesn't matter what I do, nothing's going to change.
Well, that's why it doesn't change, because
And
they don't do.
That's right. But I tell you, Dan, that's what I'm excited about, because change is coming.
Well, to me, it's your responsibility to be informed and to vote.
Well, and especially if you want to be part of the conversation afterwards.
Well, and that's why we're only interviewing people that voted.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some running for these positions that have not voted.
Ooh, well.
And to me, if you haven't been responsible enough to participate and vote, how can we trust you with policy?
It doesn't make sense that
But they're out there. But I don't think they're going to have
as you and I talked about it before. One of the things that has come out of low participation is making it much easier to be a participant. The early voting. I think the way Texas does voting is just absolutely exceptional. Early voting gives you the opportunity, if you're out of town, if you're busy, if people. I don't think I'd have too many people argue with me that people are busier now than they've ever been. And so just, giving them an opportunity to not have to stand in, I'm pretty old. We voted by standing in long lines way back when. And, now I pass a Wendy's if there's two cars in the drive-up line, because I don't want to have to wait for my sweet tea. It's just, human nature, I guess. But so
patient.
Yeah. So, making it, controllable is another part of the equation. I don't like some of what other states are doing, but I like the opportunity to go for early voting.
Well, I've actually done some research on that, because I'm trying to get rid of the machines, because I know what they're doing and can be done. Doesn't matter if they're right or not. But actually, before we had higher participation in elections before we had early voting than we do now.
No kidding. Wow, that's really unusual.
I think it's too. Anytime you make things too easy, it doesn't have any importance anymore.
Okay.
When we voted on election day, we had a much higher percentage of the population vote.
Kind of an event in that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
you have mechanisms to where if you're going to be out of town, you can go vote.
Yeah.
Go vote. Go down to the courthouse, vote in person, absentee. I have no problem.
Yeah.
If you have a reason, there's no issue.
Yeah.
So, but people voted because that was the day.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that I would prefer to go back to that. But once you give somebody that convenience, it's very difficult to take it away, because a few people really like it.
Yeah.
But I'm old school, I guess.
It's
But I was kind of surprised. I was shocked. I think the highest voter turnout in Texas was in 2000.
What was there? Of course, I got and maybe you even know better than I do. One of the things I really never kind of understood is, I know it costs. It's not cheap to hold an election.
No,
it's not cheap at all.
Very expensive,
and
especially with the machines.
Yeah, well, and just the logistics of all of that, of holding an election. I mean, all of the volunteers, and my mom is a poll worker, and now that she's not serving on the village council anymore, she's done that for years, and it's a lot. It's a lot to ask of them, and I did enjoy the fact that the last time I voted, they did give me a paper printout. It wasn't totally electronic.
Well,
I don't know the changes that.
I don't think we want to. That's a whole 2-hour discussion.
I was going to say we probably don't have enough
there.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a complete ruse on the voter.
Is it? Well,
yeah. that makes you think that you.
It made me feel. I'll give you that. It did make me feel better. I because I think it's important.
If you're going to that, why don't you just have a piece of paper? Why do you have all the machinery in between?
I'm assuming it's the tallying part. I don't know, but I do believe
it's the hidden tallying part.
I appreciate the talking about it, election integrity. I mean, that's a conversation that just has to be continually had. Is it legitimate? Is it a number we can trust? And at the end of the day,
to me, it's all about giving voters a system that they can have confidence in.
Well, just like having a city council that you have confidence in.
So if people lose confidence in their vote, they lose confidence in their government, and I think that's where we're at the national level.
There's certainly a lot
losing confidence. Then your bond, it affects everything, and that's part of the reason we have some of even the economic situations going on now is because the citizens are losing confidence in their government, and that's a very bad thing. I would rather have ballots than bullets because we don't want that. And they're trying to push that.
I see the challenge nationally. I think our state's overall is doing a pretty darn good job, but locally, it's the cynicism. It's what takes people out of the process. Is they just get to the point, kind of like my dad. It's just and my neighbor too. Hey, I've tried. I voted for a few times. Nothing changed. Nothing's different. I don't feel like I'm being heard. I'm going to go do something else. And I'm really challenged to maybe go over the top the other way and just tell people or be part of making sure they know, hey, you may disagree with me, but you matter. I want you to know that you matter. And you are part of the equation. And there will be someone on that council. Of course, this time I think there will be many someones on that council that absolutely care about what you think and want you to voice your opinion. And we want to hear, it's gotten so wrong in a bad direction now. Like I said, as a citizen of this city, I cannot go and speak to my council, my own city council, on a subject that I choose. I can go and speak to something of their choice. That's wrong. I mean, to me, that's just wrong, and it's gotten so wrong that we're not even allowed to clap if we agree with something that somebody says. I mean, Dan, this is how do you tell people that your every vote matters, every taxpayer, every person counts, and then you tell them, well, except for coming and speaking to the council.
Except you can't talk to us, and
you can't talk to us, and you can't
show
clap.
Support for issues.
I told somebody, I said, I don't really understand it, because if I'm sitting in place 4, which I hope is what will take place, and someone comes and speaks to the council on a concern, like I said, it's intimidating to do it anyways. But if they come to the council and they say something, or they even maybe would criticize something we did, and there are 20 or 30 people in that room that clap, I need to pay attention to that. I don't need to dismiss it. I need to get in there and figure out, okay, where are we? Where maybe is it communication? Is it something we misread? I mean, I don't know how to do it any other way. That feedback, how do you do it without feedback? And so, I believe I have some like-minded people that are going to participate in this election and want to return to some of those values that we used to have. And I'm that again, that's the stuff that gets me excited to be part of that, to show. You can't please everybody. I've lived long enough to know that, but just wow, what a concept to believe that your local government actually honors who you are and what you think.
Yeah. Well, do you have a website people can get a hold of you yet?
I tell you what, I'm working on a website. It's not up yet. I'm raising money and trying to do this piecemeal because I'm not independently wealthy, but it will be johnforabetteramarillo.com. I've reserved the name, and we're working on that. I do have a Facebook page that's John for a Better Amarillo. It's I would say it's in its infancy. I will confess, when I learned to run computers, and people will laugh at this, we used punch cards, and they went brrr through the machine, and so me and my wife were laughing a little bit ago. I was trying to print off some stuff and take a screenshot and print, and we're just like, oh my gosh, we are so far behind. So social media. This is the first time I've run using social media, so that's kind of new and trying to navigate that. But we have some signs coming and some of the usual things. But and then again, plan on participating in many of the events. I hope people will come out and just talk to us, ask questions, be part of the conversation. I try to engage with a lot of people, and it's pretty interesting.
Knocking on doors.
Knock on doors, and just hey, I told somebody yesterday, Dan, I know what I think. I know what I believe. As someone running for office, I need to find out what you believe.
That's right.
And so that's what I'm trying to do, is find out what people in this city think, what they believe, what they'd like their local government to look like. And, it's usually, I haven't found very many people that say, hey, I don't even want to talk about that. They're usually very willing to share their thoughts. And so anyways.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's all about people.
It is.
And, well, we appreciate you coming by, and good luck on the campaign trail. And I'm sure I'll see you around at all these forums.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
Good luck, and we'll see you on May 6th, and let's hope there's not a runoff.
Well, it kind of has the markings of one, and that's, I told somebody, again, I'd been talking to a lot of folks, but just the idea that it's a very unique, humbling feeling to just have the idea that someone might vote for you, and to me, that carries such a responsibility with it. There's some awe that's involved there that just, it's so, to be part of a runoff even, and hopefully eventually sit at the place.
Well, my concern is it's hard enough to get people out and understand how important it is to vote on a municipal election, but to get them out for a runoff in a municipal election, now that's going to give one of the candidates a huge advantage.
Yeah,
it's who will be able to get their vote out.
Yeah. Well, like I said, Alex, they asked a great question. They said, who do you believe is the person in Amarillo that would most likely vote for you? I mean, all of us for place 4 were sitting there, and I just was straight up. I think the person that's looking for change. I think the person that's looking for our local government to be run differently than it's been run. And if that happens, it's going to be pretty exciting. If those people, if that group decides they've had enough and would like something done differently at City Hall, I like the idea of the possibilities of that. So,
very good.
Appreciate you having me.
No problem. Enjoyed it.
Thank you very
much.
Good luck.